What is going on, guys? JJ here, bringing you a brand new video, and today we're going to be going over a game called Kingdom Come Deliverance. Whether you've heard of it or you haven't heard of it, I'm going to briefly explain what the game is about and what my experience has been so far with the alpha. Now, before we get into the video, I want to have a little bit of a disclosure in here, letting you guys know that the footage you're seeing is a mixture of trailer footage as well as my own captured footage, but the captured footage that I captured myself isn't up to par in terms of quality as the trailers or other YouTubers or images that you might have seen on the internet. The reason behind that is because while not recording, I manage a stable 35 frames per second playing this alpha on medium, high, low, my own custom settings. However, while recording, I had to put it on low settings, and I still get an average of about 24 FPS while recording. It puts so much stress on your PC. This game, it's not the game's fault, but at the same time, it's not really my computer's fault. This is an alpha, which means it's not fully optimized. This is a tech alpha, which means it's basically just there to look at and be like, ooh and ah. But enough of me rambling, let's get into what Kingdom Come Deliverance is. Kingdom Come Deliverance is an open-world 3D RPG set in a real-time period rather than the fantasy setting like games such as Skyrim and The Witcher 3. It takes a different, it's different than what we're used to. It is built on the CryEngine 3, which means it will give you, and many other people, including myself, visual orgasms. Of course, the CryEngine is, in my opinion, if not the best graphics engines, one of the best. Now, what if I could tell you there was a game hoping to bring the feeling of a bunch of others that are known throughout everyone when it comes to video games, especially RPGs, and it just wants to put all those things together. A game with a world as rich and detailed as an Elder Scrolls game, say Oblivion or Skyrim, a story as interesting as a Witcher game, the historical aspect of an Assassin's Creed, and not to mention the Dark Souls difficulty, all tied together with the most realistic sword fighting in a video game we have ever come to see up to this day. That is what Kingdom Come Deliverance is aiming for, to be its own unique thing while incorporating all this other stuff that everyone loves in their video games and making it as realistic as they possibly can. Now, to know what this game is about, we first need to know the time period and the story. As to what we know so far, the game takes place in the 15th century medieval kingdom of Bohemia, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce that correctly, where we follow the story of a son of a blacksmith whose family and home were destroyed in an invasion. In order to redeem himself and his failure to protect those whom he loved most, he must avenge the dead by protecting the kingdom's rightful ruler and helping to restore order to the kingdom. First of all, I love that little description, and there's so much about this game that I want to cover in the next few weeks. But we're going to keep going on right now in this video. It's going to be a rather short clip. In fact, I probably won't even use my own footage. This is just letting you guys know what I think my overall thoughts are on this alpha as well as the game itself. Now, to quote the game's description, this is not a fantasy fairy tale, and you are not the chosen one. It's very straightforward and quite frank with you. This isn't a game where you are going to be mastering the will of shouts like in Skyrim and you're going to be taking on dragons. This isn't a game where you're a mutant like in The Witcher and you could take on any monster known to man. There is no monsters, period. The first promo ad I ever saw from this game was about a year and a half ago, and the trailer literally said, "Dungeons with no dragons," and I thought that was just an amazing line. I myself have always wanted really to experience a medieval type RPG game that would kind of remind me of Skyrim as well as other games, but there really hasn't really been too much of that. I mean, you can look at the Mount & Blade games, but at the same time, as good as those games are, they're totally different than what this game is about. Now, abilities and stats grow depending on what you do, sort of like in the Elder Scrolls system, I'm guessing. It's just me guessing. Based off what I've read, depending on what you do, your stats will grow over time depending on the task that you're doing. Sort of like how in Skyrim, if you're doing lockpicking, your lockpicking stat goes up. If you're smithing, your smithing stat goes up, and so on. You're using one-handed goes up. It's basically around that. That's sort of what I get from it, although right now we don't know too much. Every choice you make in this game matters. This happens in a lot of RPGs nowadays, and to be honest, I think this is a necessity in a hardcore, really good storytelling game. You look at The Witcher, and there's so many different scenarios that can come just by doing little different choices, and you can end up with 3 final game endings, but as well as hundreds of different possibilities in the game world simply because of things you did. Your reputation in this game, that's right, you will have a reputation, sort of like, remember in Mass Effect where you had the Paragon and the Renegon? I am so sorry, I just said a Renegon. That is from Naruto. I don't know why I said that. I meant a Renegade. where you basically got to choose how people looked at you, whether they knew that you were a badass who wasn't to be fucked with, or they knew that you had a compassionate heart and you're someone that they can rely on and trust. Your reputation in this game will depend on everything you do and whoever you want and whoever you talk to, what you say to them, your actions that you commit. And just so you know, you can be whoever you want to be in this game. This isn't a game sort of like... One thing that I gotta say about The Witcher 3, and in my opinion, I love The Witcher 3. In fact, I have a few videos that I'm going to be doing soon where I'm going to be talking about Skyrim and The Witcher 3 and comparisons and stuff, even though, oh my god, stop comparing them. But it's for my own personal take. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people didn't like about The Witcher 3, excluding me because I love the game, was they didn't realize the fact that you had to be a Witcher, basically, meaning that you had to use a silver sword, you had to use the signs, and you had to use a regular sword. And there were people who I saw that were disappointed because they thought it was going to be more like Skyrim, where you can be an archer, you can be a full-on mage, you can be a druid or something like that. People thought it was something like that, and honestly, that's not what that game was about. Now, something like this, it gives you sort of free and full control of your character, just like in Skyrim, besides building the character and making what he looks like. I'm pretty sure you can't decide what he looks like because it's based off of, like I said, the story is the son of a blacksmith whose family was taken and blah blah blah. But you can be a thief, a warrior, all that other stuff. Of course, you're not going to be able to be a mage in this game, a druid, or anything like that in other RPGs that are set in a fantasy style, simply due to the fact that in real life, there's no such thing as a mage. In real life, there is no person that can turn from a human into a bear. That does not happen, and the whole point of this game is it is not trying to be every other RPG, but it is trying to draw little differences and aspects from every game that everyone loves and put them all together, but make it as realistic as possible. Now I'm going to give you guys my first impressions on this game and my overall thoughts on what I've experienced when it came to playing the alpha as well as watching YouTubers play and such. Now, I'm going to talk about 4 things: the world, the graphics, the dialogue, and the combat. The first thing we're going to go over is the world. Now, the world, in my opinion, based off what I explored, really, because even what I've explored in the tech alpha is nowhere near as massive as the game is going to be. Now, the game that's coming out is going to be in 2016 summertime, and it's going to be Act 1. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there are 3 acts to this game, meaning 3 different titles. I'm pretty sure each one costs $60. I'm not sure. It's just like a sequel to a sequel, basically the same. It's going to work the same way, I believe. So, based off of what I could explore from the small area that they allow people to check out in the tech alpha, it was awesome. I mean, the grass looked beautiful, the landscape looked amazing. In the beginning of the game, the first thing I did was just look over on this castle or something like that, and I was just thinking, wow, there are so many things that we can do nowadays, and the world just looks amazing. The detail is there. Every object, every plant, every person, everything looks amazing. Everything has its own unique style, and I cannot be more excited to experience what the full open world of this game will be. Next, I'm going to talk to you guys about the dialogue system. Now, it was interesting. Now, you've probably seen this in a lot of other games. In fact, I've seen this in games such as KOTOR, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and stuff like that. Oh, those are all 3 BioWare games. And I have seen it in, I think, Fallout. I don't know if Skyrim does this too much. I don't really remember. Where you have certain different stats and stuff towards what you say. You know how you can persuade a person to say something or to believe you with something. You can use an awareness skill to be like, oh, well, what are you talking about? You're obviously lying. You can use your intuition, your intelligence. They have sort of a same system as that in this game based off of what I saw when I was playing the game and talking to different people. There's different scenarios and different things that you can say, and certain things will not work on people. Like, for instance, the fisherman, when you're trying to interrogate him about his friend and what they were doing on this quest that you're going to be doing in the game, he won't tell you the information really unless you use might, which is a form of intimidation. Basically, tell me or I'm going to fucking kill you or I'm going to beat you up. He won't tell you unless you use that. If you try to do anything else, he won't really respond, and he won't tell you. It'll just say persuasion fail or this or that. So it's different things affect different people when it comes to dialogue options, and I really overall like that idea. Next, I'm going to talk to you guys about the graphics in this game, which is probably its strongest, if not second strongest suit. Now, I'm one of those people who doesn't think graphics are that important. I like shiny, detailed graphics. I think they're pretty. I play Skyrim with a bunch of mods and stuff. As of late, I haven't been. But I do like myself some next-gen looking games. I like it to look nice. And Kingdom Come Deliverance delivers that. Wow, I can't believe I said that. How corny. Now, like I said, they're using the CryEngine 3, and if you don't know what the CryEngine 3 is, have you ever heard of a game called Crysis 3, Rise Son of Rome? Yeah, you might not like one of those games, but they look fucking fantastic, and Crysis 3 was a fun experience, and the graphics just made it even better, even though I don't really think graphics are as important as gameplay and story, they do help the game a little bit. And in certain situations like this game, where you have a whole open world, you're exploring a European country, you're looking at the grass, you're looking at the sun, the castles, the distant lands, it really does help the immersiveness of the experience, and it really does make you feel like you are actually there. I've been saying for a while now, in my opinion, CryEngine has the best graphics out there, one of the best graphic engines, if not the best in my opinion, and just looking at it, you can actually feel sometimes, wow, that tree looks really real, that this water looks like real water that I've seen in a video. It's just crazy what we can do nowadays. Now, the last and final thing I'm going to talk about in this video, because it's going on a little longer than I intended to, is the combat. Now, the combat is kind of tricky for me, personally, because I haven't experienced too much. I have watched videos on the combat, I've watched YouTube videos on both archery, as well as the sword fighting mechanics, and I have watched the sword fighting demo that they showed at E3. Now, in this tech alpha, I actually got to try out the combat system, and the first thing I did was archery, because lately I've just really been loving to do archery builds in Skyrim and other stuff like that. For some reason, I've just been really drawn towards it, and the archery in this game is kind of difficult, but at the same time, it's really fun. I was just practicing, because all you can do really is practice against the little targets, and it can be fun. It is hard to see because you don't have a crosshair. At least I didn't, because I turned crosshairs off. But the game itself has decent archery, and I think it will be, you know, over time it'll be even better, because right now it's difficult to master. I can tell it's going to be difficult to master, but it is a fun implement into the game. Now, the big thing, the sword fighting mechanics. This is one of the things that many people are excited for and are drawn to this game simply because of the sword fighting, and they want to know how it is. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought the sword fighting was really, really hard, but it's not supposed to be easy, so at the same time, I can understand. I just am not used to the way this mechanic is. It sort of reminded me a little bit of the Mountain Blade system, where you go up with your mouse to swing up, you go down with your mouse to thrust, you swing right, left to swing right and left. Well, it's based off of a star system where it has, 5 little points of interest on the body. When you're locked onto a character whom you're fighting, wherever you point your right, I was using a controller by the way, not a mouse and keyboard. Whenever you're using your analog sticks, whichever one you point to, and then you press the attack button, which is RB and L2, L2 and L1, those will attack wherever you swing at. You have different combo moves and different scenarios that you can switch at, and I can tell that the combat system is really worked upon, and we haven't really seen too much, just a glimpse in some, you know, like, ooh, you know you want me kind of stuff. Like, they haven't given us too much stuff, and later on they will give us more stuff, leading on with more stuff in the alpha, as well as when the beta comes out in 2016. We will get to finally experience more of a detailed playthrough of the sword fighting mechanics. Now, personally, for me, I can't say I had the greatest sword fighting experience, simply because of my frames were so awful. I was getting about 22 FPS when I was using the sword fighting. Everything else was fine, but particularly when I went sword fighting, my frames dropped by 10. It was crazy. I could barely do it. But once again, it is a tech alpha, so that's not really the game's fault. And it's not my PC's fault. It's not the greatest PC, but it is a fairly decent computer. The fact of the matter is that the game is not fully optimized yet, which is an obvious, since it is a tech alpha, and it won't be optimized for a while. So overall, I gotta say that this game is something to keep your eyes out, especially if you're a fan of open world RPGs, sword combat, graphics, especially because I know there are people who just buy their games for really nice graphics, which I don't understand, but still, this is one of those games. I will say that I probably would recommend this game to someone who likes Skyrim, The Witcher, or any RPG series such as that. However, at this time, we don't know too much about the game other than what we've read, heard, and watched on YouTube. So I can't really recommend buying the alpha. The alpha will cost you, it will run you a minimum of $50 to become a backer, which is basically donating to help support this game. Now, if you put the $50 down, don't worry, you're not just getting the alpha, you are also getting the first act of the game as well as beta access. So realistically, you are paying for the full game. You're not just paying for an alpha. So in the long run, it is kind of worth it. But at the same time, if you're on the shorts right now and you don't really have a lot of money, but you really want to play this alpha because you've seen all this cool stuff from their trailers and stuff, don't. Wait a little bit. If you really want to get your hands on this game early like I did, wait a little bit. I'm telling you right now, I'm warning you, wait a little bit until more is done, because it is a tech alpha, so there's not too much done. It's not an alpha like the Forest or H1Z1 or something like that, where a lot of stuff is already implemented in the game and already basically overall done, and they're just adding new stuff every other week. No, this is a very early version of the game that they are way past upon. This is nothing, like, they are way farther than what the alpha is. So if you really are just looking to have a good experience, I'm sorry to say that you won't have that until later on in 2016, when the game is actually almost done, when the beta comes out, as well as later on in the alpha. So right now I can't recommend buying it. I can recommend buying it probably in the future, and so far this game was amazing. I really like everything about it, and that's it. I know this was a long video, but I just felt like I had to give you guys my opinions and my thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance, what it is, and how I feel about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will have another video coming out later this week talking about what do you guys want to see from my YouTube channel when it comes in terms of different series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.